seconds so we can explain the preservation process. 4's on the right, and 3 RF-8 Crusaders. That's the test bed for materials. And it looks like they're getting ready to get rid of one of the F4s. That's why you see some red writing on there, which usually means that D crossed out. They're getting ready to scrap that one. But the preservation here is important. Believe it or not, in Arizona, more people get killed by bees than rattlesnake bites. And you can't leave stuff open. Here, these F-16s, this whole block is going to be shot down. Likely somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico. These are all going to be converted to target drones. You see the National Guard base letters on the tails. Also point out that the 2 small numbers there, that's the date of order, so you get some idea of the vintage, at least of the order of the aircraft. These will be flown down to Florida by pilots from here after their flight ready, and then Boeing will create target drones. On the right side, you're going to see a lot of C-130s. These are in what we call Type 1000 storage, and that means no parts can be taken off of these because they can be returned to flight. And about 600 of the airplanes here are in Type 1000 storage, and they do come back out. About 20% of them will come back out and return to flight. So that's what you see on the right. On the left, as we're coming up, you're going to see a bunch of things. We'll just call them cans. But in these cans are engines, and they're sealed up like that because they vacuum them and then put argon or nitrogen inside to preserve the engines, so they're ready to go and can be pulled out of the cans. You'll also see some engines up here on the left that are laying open. Those are ready for salvage. Those will be bid out for a salvage contractor who will get some of the precious metals out of the recycling. We've got some engines here that are wrapped in a wrapped material. Those are turboprop engines. More cans. And then we've got some big engines, and you can guess those come off of C5 panels. So as we go around the corner, we're going to go down a row of aircraft that we kind of call Celebrity Row. And what this row really represents is at least about 80% of the main types of aircraft and helicopters that you would find here in Avon. Rather than drive up and down all the rows, we're just going to take you down a row. It also represents some of the history that you find out here. The first airplane on your left is the OV-1 Mohawk. It's flown in Vietnam, turboprop, short field takeoff observation airplane. The next airplane is an S-2 Tracker. Now that S-2 Tracker is interesting. It's the first Navy fully anti-submarine aircraft. Those big engine nacelles would hold sonobuoys, and they would drop sonobuoys from this to find out where the submarines were. Sonobuoys deploy a flotation device with a transmitter antenna on top, drops a cable. Later version, which is the S-3 Viking, and that's jet engines. The interesting thing about that, of course, carrier base, wings fold up, crew of 2. If you want to get up close, there's one inside the museum. Nice looking point. You're going to see a lot of S-3s out here today. Alright, and then up a little bit further is our picture. That's exactly what it was militarized from. Then we've got our H-3 Sea King. Now the Sea King, interesting, is the first amphibian warfare aircraft. You see the hull on it. Also, this aircraft, first jet engine. If you picture this in a nice green paint scheme with U.S. Marines down the side taking off from the White House lawn going to Andrews Air Force Base, same type of helicopter flown as Marine 1. Next one up duty, all-around utility helicopter. 2 Sea Cobra, 2 Cobias. The first one's a Sea Cobra. It would go out and it would detect what kinds of communication systems it would have. So it's the C-130s, big jet engines, short field takeoff. The exhaust off those engines would go over the wing and provide smoke jumpers. The tail opens up, there's a ramp on the back. So as we move ahead here, you're going to see fighters on the left, transports on the right. Our first fighter on the left is the Thunder Chief. That is the only aircraft ever pulled from service in 100 years. This one is a Purple Heart recipient. Well, you get Purple Hearts to be the airplane. About 520 20 FK-18s was underneath the wing, dropped them, and they were being shot. And that yellow it's out in the open about these. Came out of service in 2006. 737, that's exactly what it's based on. The F-15 is the U.S.'s top up on its tail. You continue to accelerate as you go straight up. A patrol aircraft, still in executive airplane. Not only do CEOs and VIPs in and out of maybe smaller airport engines make, but it didn't sound like it needed to be. T-50 that the U-2 pilots would use to stay and kind of hold the record for most regenerations around here. It started as a tanker, KC-135, went on to the FAA to map 50 years ago with Boeing for some testing over the eastern side of actual photos of this in flight. It flew back from the Rockies 5 hours, and it would be launched out of Utah and fly over. It's the only few times. Over here on the right, a lot of H-60 helicopters. These will come back into flight at some time. Also on the right, you see a lot of those C-23 Schwartz brothers. They've got the numbers on them now for the U.S. Forest Service. A mile of KC-135s over here. They're being replaced by C-46s. These are 50 years old. C-46 is going, KC-46 is going to be the tanker of the future based on a 767. A lot of Vikings on the right. Behind the Vikings are intruders. If you can see down there, Danny Glover's A6 intruder is setting down there that he flew in Flight of the Intruder. Some of the, you see Hurons over here on the right. We have some T-34s. Then we got a bunch of helicopters up here on the left. You're going to see some UC-57s. You see some of the Forest Service Cobras, some Hueys. Got a bunch of F-4s over here. A little history. There's two F-4s sitting over there 50 feet apart. On May 6, 1972, they each shot down a separate MiG-21 in Vietnam, and now here they sat 50 feet apart. That's some of the history that's out here in the desert. Some T-2 Buckeyes. Going to go around the corner. You'll have a great shot of the Catalinas in the background and the KC-135s in the foreground. Up ahead on the right, there is a large that does three different things. The first third of it here towards us is for aircraft wheels. They'd be located there. A-10s at the end for their flight extension work. This is the tail off a C-130. That's another regeneration project for the Navy SEALs. They're going to use that for training. So we do cutaways and sweet oil is run through the engines, and then it's brought down to the wash rack, and it's the Navy actuators from the ejection seats are taken out. So up here on the left, you're going to see an airplane coming out of the part coming out of the PLS, and we're talking 1,000 stories. No parts coming off of these. They can be converted into the M's, go back into flight. If we're lucky, you might see an F-15 getting chopped up over here, like one like this. This is where on the left is where they actually, on the right you see some missile parts. It is aerospace maintenance and regeneration group that proves it. A row of airplanes behind these missile parts, it's this museum road. Those airplanes are all going to go to museums and the bridge. When we go over the bridge, I'm going to tell you, this is my line, this is the largest parts depot you're going to see. Parts do not go into warehouses here. They stay on the airplane until there's an order for them. So you're going to see airplanes over on this side that probably aren't going to fly in. And you're going to get an idea of what kind of parts airplanes up on softwares. And what's that tell us? It tells us that those landing gears, you can beat up 22-foot wing on that airplane. And the interesting thing, NASA had two of those, and they wanted a third one. They got one out of here in 2013 and flew it after it sat here for 41 years. A bunch of T-38s. See some parts missing off of those? Yes, there are. And then you'll see some C-5s in the back. Those are for parts, but there's more of those coming. Some F-4s. And then we're going to come up to our B-1B rows. I told you there were about 18 B-1Bs here. Same story. Parts are coming off of these. next row, you see some Hornets coming up. Got kind of the V-tail sticking up in the back. Well, there's a Navy Blue Angel Hornet there in position 7. And you can imagine sometimes those have a hard life also in the air show circuit. So sometimes those get exchanged out here also. Some C-130s here for parts. And then if you want a photo opportunity of a bunch of C-5s, this will be it on the right side. We're going to turn around and come back out. So if you're on the left side, you'll be able to get the same photograph. There's a A3 whale setting there. Now these C-5s, it's amazing to me that the most movement on an aircraft setting out here in the desert takes place on the biggest airplane. These things are really vulnerable in the wind. You see some rudder damage where things have been ripped off. They're cabled to the ground, but C-5s, if they get hit out here by a heavy wind, can turn as much as 40 degrees in position. A bunch of helicopters are coming up on a row of helicopters. I don't know which one it is, but the last helicopter out of Vietnam is in that row. And hopefully some museum will be able to acquire that at some time. We've got some A-10s here, and we're going to reach our turnaround point down here, and then it's time to talk a little bit about these A-10s that have come off part of the renovation program. You're going to see some E-3s up here, rows of those. A couple of hangars to provide a little bit of comfort to guys working out here in the desert. He's that here. Well, the Marines were smart. They stopped flying that area. They're opening up, and he's just going to grab a chunk of that F-15 and rip it up. So again, we have 5 missions that you saw here. Hopefully you saw them, which demonstrated. We have the maintenance option.